What's up and welcome to another live unboxing. We've got the MSI GT77 Titan. This is arguably the most powerful laptop in the world right now. And I'm really excited MSI sent it over for review, so I didn't have to buy this one necessarily, but after I used it, I actually did go out and buy one. And I was thinking I was going to keep it as my personal laptop, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to talk to you about why I'm probably not going to in the end. So, that said, I still think this thing's going to be an amazing laptop for so many people. And goodness, this thing's expensive. We're going to go over the price, the specs, where you can buy it, how this stacks up against other laptops today. We're going to take the bottom off. We're going to do internal analysis. We're going to do some basic benchmarks. We're going to do a lot of different things. But the most important thing is we're going to get our hands on it, right? It's been so long since we've had a refreshed Titan, and I'm really excited about this one because it's just got so much juice. 24 core, 32 thread, and really high power limits. This thing's going to be awesome. So I did open the box up and get some drivers installed and play around on it a little bit, and that's partially why I went out and bought one, because I really enjoyed my time with it. But I don't want to give any spoilers away. I'm going to give you my hands-on as if I'm going to be experiencing it for the first time. So this is my laptop ranked list for gaming laptops. This has links to buy just about every gaming laptop currently available on the market. It has some of my thoughts in terms of mini reviews. It has images, it has specifications, it has some basic ratings to give you a rough idea of what I think about each of the laptops that are currently out so far. There are a ton of laptops that I haven't been able to update the ratings for yet. You can see they've been added to the bottom, so I've only been able to rate about half the laptops, and partially the reason for that is that I actually got hands-on time with almost all the laptops that I've rated so far on the list, versus a lot of these other laptops I didn't really get hands-on, like the Nitro 5. Some of them just need to be updated, too, because I did get hands-on on some of these on the bottom, too. I just need to spend some time and go through and fully update the list, but the important thing, the biggest update for the gaming laptop list right now is that we are looking at the launch of the RTX 4050, 4060, and 4070 basically tomorrow. And so there's a ton of laptops with those specifications in the mid and lower tiers that are available for pre-order and order now. And I'm thinking I should probably put together like a top 5 or top 10 laptops in the mid-range budget range type of a video here coming up pretty soon. Because there's a lot of decent options out there, and there's a lot of choices people are making right now about the mid-range and entry level laptops. Let me just point out a couple of my favorite right now. At least they feel like they have some of the most potential. So right here is an incredible bang for the buck option. The Gigabyte G5, you got an i5 12500H with an RTX 4060, only 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, a full HD 144 hertz display, and if it's as good as the last Gigabyte G5, it was actually a pretty good display for the money. It was like 300 nits. But this is $1,100 right here, and that's a pretty great bang for the buck. You probably want to upgrade the RAM though. I did order one of these, so we'll get hands-on with it coming up here soon. I'm really excited about that one. There's another one, the cheapest RTX 4070s. Let's go over those right now. So the cheapest RTX 4070 options, those go, look at the price range on the 4070s, right? So the most expensive ones, the Blade 16 4070 costs $32.99. And then the cheapest one for the same graphics card costs $14.99. So there's such a huge price range on the 4070, and it's really not much faster than the 3070 Ti. It's basically a 3070 Ti in terms of raw rasterization performance. But when it comes to frame generation, you do get some advantages there. So depending on how much you spend on it, it could be a really good value or a really mediocre value. So anyway, I've got an MSI Katana that I ordered. I'm not too hopeful that it's going to be amazing, but it seems like a decent deal. I think it's going to be a lower wattage, if I remember correctly, like 105 watt on this guy, but it's very thin, very light, under 5 pounds. So I'm excited about checking out that one. The other one that seems really promising is the MSI Pulse. So this guy is a fairly high wattage option, right? It's got an RTX 4060 in it. And it's 140 watt, if from MSI. So $14.99 for that guy. I think you spend a little bit more, you can jump up to a 4070. So those are kind of some of my top picks right now to consider. We don't know exactly all the details or how well they're going to perform once we get them in, but they are out there for order now. And yeah, the other thing I'll point out is that the QHD version of the 4070 MSI Pulse is probably going to be a potential worthy upgrade because the display quality is so much better on their QHD. It's 100% DCI-P3 color gamut on this laptop, while maintaining that 140 watt TDP. So yeah, this one looks pretty promising. I don't know about the price tag of $18.99. I kind of wish they had the lower end CPU and charged more like $1,700 or $1,600 for it. Then it would be really easy to recommend this one if it actually benchmarks as well as I'm thinking it's going to benchmark. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and change camera angles. So here is the Titan. Notice the box. We've got Titan on the side here. Got this nice emblem. Titan Series GT. More MSI logos and Titan embleming. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Now notice that we did open this up a little bit before, but okay. Here we are. Now you can get this for $45.99 with an RTX 4090 with lower end memory, and just know that that's probably the spec I would recommend of the GT77 if you can get your hands on it, but there's not been very many online sales of that $45.99 version, so I'm waiting for more of those to be available. And I'm also really interested in the QHD version of the display for this Titan. So there it is. There is the beast right here. Notice the metal top lid. This is plastic. Wait, is it metal? This might actually be metal on the back end here. Yeah, I think that might be metal. But then this is definitely plastic. That part is plastic. Plastic on the hinges. And if you flip the sucker upside down, we do have a plastic bottom chassis with a metal section right here. So this part's metal, this part's plastic. So we've got a nice mixture of metal and plastic. And it's an interesting choice that they went that route. Just know that probably the number one reason they did is because the thermals on a plastic chassis, not only are they transmit less heat, so it's a little bit easier on your fingers, on your keyboard, and that the whole laptop doesn't become a heat sink when you intermix this metal and plastic like this. So that's probably their reasoning behind it. Let's go ahead and pull the laptop out and see what else is in the box. So inside here we have our Mama Jama, the big guy. So this thing is a huge power adapter, one of the biggest on the market, 330 watts of power. I just wish that the power adapter was smaller, more efficiently done. I really love the Razer power adapters this year. So there's the power adapter cable. If I pull this out, it's like a full 6 foot long cable. And this one is about a 4 foot long cable right here. So, all right. What else do we have in the box? So we've got a bag for the cable here. It looks like inside of here, there's nothing, just packaging. Let's check what's inside of this. I actually haven't looked inside of here. So inside of this sleeve, we've got our warranty information. See if I can get the camera to focus a little bit better. All right, so limited warranty summary. It's a 12-month warranty, and it is a limited warranty, and it's not transferable to any other party. So only the original buyer of the product gets the warranty. So I'm guessing if you get this laptop, whoever registers it first is, I'm guessing, who's going to get the warranty, but we're here to help. So MSI has customer service helpline information with a telephone number right here on the card. I love that. Like, I don't know how, it says 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, but they're not available on weekends. But that's interesting. I should actually, I'm tempted to call them and just see how long the wait time is. You know, like, kind of would be interesting to find out. So we got a little laptop guide here indicating what the ports are and all of that. It's pretty straightforward though. So let's go ahead and get the laptop turned on. And here's the laptop. Beautiful. Open it up. Shwam. And notice the nice microfiber cloth that you get with it. You can use this for cleaning the black exterior, trying to make it look all juicy and nice. Now, I want to point out these stickers suck. I actually decided to take the stickers off of the GT77 that I got, and man, was it a pain in the butt to get the goo from the stickers fully off. So MSI, please stop putting these stickers on the laptop chassis. That is my request. We all are if you do put them on here, make sure that the glue is very light and easy to remove for the end user. You don't want to leave goo on a laptop that costs as much as a car, okay? That's just not cool. It's not a premium experience. We don't appreciate it. All right. Okay. All right. So, oh wait. You know, we're going to take the bottom off first. As always, first step in these unboxings, we remove the bottom. So let's do that before we plug it in and turn it on. So for taking the bottom off, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, and that's about it. That and maybe just like a spuger tool, like a plastic tool. So start taking these guys out. And you definitely do want a magnetic screwdriver for this guy, because it's going to be hard to get the screws out if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver. Basically impossible. So there should be a link in the description down below if you want to check out the iFixit toolkit that I use. It has all kinds of different screw heads along with a really good screwdriver that's magnetic. Okay, so this factory screw does not want to come up. I had troubles getting it off on the other GT77 that I bought too, but I got it out. I think there's just maybe a little bit of the paper fell down there or something. I don't know, it's loose. It'll probably come up. Let me try just flipping the laptop over. There we go. Okay, so I just had to flip the laptop over and it came off into my hand, no problem. All right, so next up, carefully pry the laptop apart. And this one is snapped together pretty tightly, so you definitely want to use plastic tools. Do not use a metal tool. You will damage the laptop and you will be a sad panda. I'm going to use the toothpick or the guitar pick style first to get this thing started. I'm just deciding on which side I want to go on. Let's do this side. Yeah, and there's one downside to this laptop. They don't really have a good starting point to get the laptop chassis started. I wish they would make it easier to get inside this machine, because this kind of machine is definitely one that a lot of people are going to want to be getting, you know, into. So I got one guitar pick in on this side. I'm going to get a second guitar pick out so I can hopefully continue this. There we go. Starting to get once you get it popping up, it's not too hard, but just getting that initial pop up without damaging anything is the tricky part. Okay, so we've got 3/4 of the laptop chassis apart. We've got to take it to the back side now. For those who don't have a pick, a plastic knife works too. Yeah, you just got to be careful. Don't use metal. I made a mistake when I was early on opening up chassis. I was like, I don't want to damage this, but I'm just so mad that it's taken so long to get this thing up. So I decided to use a little metal screwdriver head, and my goodness, I gouged that plastic so bad. So this last part can be a little tricky. Right, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the blue tool, kind of pry it up a little bit. Then I'm going to get the guitar pick in underneath the plastic. And voila. Pretty much loosened up the whole back in one little run there. You just got to be gentle with it. You don't want to break anything. It's not too bad of a laptop chassis to open up, but it's far from the best, I'll say. Like they really should improve how easy it is with a pop-up screw or something. But at least the chassis itself is very snug fit, so you know it's like not going to be popping out on you or whatever. So there's the internals. Ooh, it's a beautiful internal setup that we got going on this laptop. huge battery. I believe this is a 99 watt hour battery. Yes, it is. Ooh, wow. There are so many heat pipes on this thing. It is amazing. Basically, this whole thing is all heat pipes. It's pretty incredible. Here we go. All right, so left speaker, right speaker, and the speakers on this machine look and sound like they're really high-end speakers. I really like the sound of them, and we'll get to test them here in a little bit. Okay, so we got our battery connector right here. We have our memory cover, and I'm not going to worry about taking off the memory cover, but there is 4 SODIMM slots in here, so you can actually use them. I believe they're 4800 megahertz SODIMM memory slot, or they're 4800. DDR5 4800 memory, but they have to be downclocked when in this 128 gig setup. So yeah, and I'm curious, one thing I'm very curious about is if you don't need this much memory, would you be able to put in like say DDR5 5600 RAM and just go to like 32 gigs? I'm curious. I think that would be probably give you a little bit better benchmarking potential if you don't need that much RAM. Okay. So left and right speakers, 95 watt hour battery. We have our PCIe Gen 4 SSD slot right here. Another PCIe Gen 4 SSD slot right here. This is a, I believe a 2 terabyte default SSD. And then we have our PCIe Gen 5 SSD slot right here. And this is one chassis that can take, and this chassis can take double-sided SSDs. I was able to put in both of my 8 terabyte SSDs into this for a total of 18 terabytes of SSD space, which was just phenomenal. Yeah, so Wi-Fi right here, and it is a Intel Killer AX1690i Wi-Fi adapter. And our heat pipes right here, we've got crazy heat pipes on this thing. All right, so for our heat pipe layout, we've got 1 dedicated to the GPU, 2 dedicated to the GPU, a 3rd shared heat pipe between the CPU and GPU, a 4th dedicated to the GPU that goes to the right side that works on these 2 fans, and then another little one that goes around to this side. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heat pipes to the GPU. And for our CPU, we have 1 shared heat pipe between the CPU and GPU, but 3 dedicated heat pipes just to the CPU. And notice also our fan layout is phenomenal. Back here, we've got a huge fan, 2 huge fans, and then 2 smaller fans. And this allows for just incredible temps in games and in benchmarks. This thing is just pretty freaking insane. So yeah, that's the internals. This machine, I think, is pretty efficient with their internal spacing, and they just have this incredibly complex heating solution. I'm curious. I think this is the best thermal solution that we've seen on the market so far. I'm curious if a vapor chamber cooling solution could actually outperform this complex heat pipe array, but I don't know. Yeah, so someone said, Sergey says they use something like the Honeywell PTM 7550. Yeah, that's something that I had heard as well. But I want confirmation from MSI or for someone to take it apart and verify that. It's very important to get all of these plastic bits to snap back together. And it can be a little tricky when you're re-snapping back together the back area as well. And the way I'm doing this, I'm just going around the circle looking for any areas that are not snapped in, and making sure that they do get snapped in before I put the screws in. And I noticed that this one right by the vents on the side does not like to snap in all the way, so you gotta kind of push on the outside of it. I just gotta snap in there. And then the back also, there's like a little ridge that you gotta make sure that the thing snaps together properly. Yeah, it is tricky getting this to go back together. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws back in, but not tighten the screws all the way. And then once the screws are in, I'm going to try to get the back ridge to re-pop back together. You might actually want to start with the back ridge, getting it popped together first. All right, so we need to not tighten this down all the way so we can get the back to pop in for us. Yeah, pushing up from the bottom is how I'm getting them to pop back in. Not pushing down from the top, pushing up from the bottom. Okay, so I think we're all snapped back in now. I just need to tighten the screws down. and we're good to go. Notice that it is taking a bit longer to take this laptop apart, I think, than the average laptop, but it's not horrendous. Let's get it fired up. Yeah, update the MSI Center. I had updated to the latest option. I have pressed the power button. It'll be nice if these laptops have a wall brick that pushes the GPU like a full PC, because some are still weak when plugged in. Interesting. Typher Gudra asks, why does it have a big space behind the screen? That's a great question. So right here we have this like a abutment or like a rear end. It's got a nice bootay, y'all. All right, nice bootay. This thing right here is where a lot of those exhaust fans and fins are located, and basically, if I can hold this up for you, you can see right here. Well, I have to open it up. Right here, you can see the LED light is in here, and you can see all of those fins in there. Just tons and tons of fins inside of this rear, and that's where a lot of the heat pipes are as well. So that's predominantly where the thermal cooling solution is. And I want to point out, this says Windows Hello. When I point this up in my face, boom, it's in. Windows Hello has worked flawlessly and really, really well for me when using the GT77 so far. We're going to do, so this is plain right now. You can just select the color that you want it to be. There's Aqua. This is like flowing water type of a look. I do like that one, it's pretty cool. Aurora, which is like the Aurora Borealis color scheme. I think it looks really good, but I like a little more color in my color schemes. Chakra, this is my jam right here because you get like the whole rainbow of all the different lights. And then Default, which is just this crazy hodgepodge of colors. And I wanted to point out that you can see these keys. They are so bright in this brightly lit studio environment. If I turn the lights off, look at how bright these keys are. They are extremely luminescent. So going back to Aurora and Chakra, it's just so vibrant and interesting to look at these lights. And they're very visible even in a super bright environment, which is not true for all of the backlights this year. Like these are distinctly brighter than this is Dragon Shield, by the way. This is distinctly brighter than the Scar keyboard backlight for sure. Freeway, so this one has the lights going sideways, a little kind of creative and fun. So again, there's plain and then rainbow split. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to leave it on Chakra. I like that. And let me show you the back of the keyboard. So that's what the rear light looks like. And let's go over some of the different settings. So you can set it to, this is Aurora. This is Blue Flash. Chakra. Again, Chakra is what I would probably set it to most of the time, I think. You have Default, which is just multicolor craziness. And you can disable it. You can also do Dragon Shield. Macaw. What is that? Oh. It's just kind of a pulsing light. And then there's also Rainbow. Looks pretty good. Yeah, and then there's Plain. So that's just where you select one color. And I want to also point out that you also have this logo right here. And when you change the lights on this, I believe it also changes the light on the thing. Yeah, so this matches the back of the rear light, whatever you have. I've got a plastic cover on this. Let me go and take that off. Pretty cool light setup. I think from a light RGB perspective, this is one of the better looking RGB implementations overall. Though it's not as cool looking to the user, I don't think. For example, you know, like the Scar series, you know, a lot of those lights are facing you. The Legion series, the lights are facing you. The GE78, the lights are facing you. The Mystic light on the back of this is facing other people. So it's a little bit different approach. All right, so on this right side, we have a USB 3.2, a Thunderbolt 4, a Thunderbolt 4. I believe one of these has power delivery, a mini display port, an HDMI 2.1, and then we have our 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, our fan exhaust on the rear, entirely fan exhaust. And on the far side, we have our power adapter. We have our power adapter, 2 more USB A's, so 3.2, 3.2, and then a full-size SD card slot where I was getting about 90 megabits per second with my fast USB, or my fast full-size SD card slot. It's like I was getting about 180 with the Alienware and about the same for the Razer. Unfortunately, this is a little bit slower full-size SD card slot than those, but it's still faster than using the USB-C cable on the camera. Now, the headset port is also here. It's a combo port for microphone and headphone in one. So the ports overall on this machine are only potentially beaten by maybe the Alienware M18. I think other than that, there's basically no other laptops that match the ports on the GT77. They're really phenomenal. I want to show you guys something with the MSI color. So this is the MSI True Color. All right, so this is the MSI background that comes with the laptop. You've got movie mode, you got office mode, you got display P3 color gamut mode, so it's like a very vibrant looking mode, and Adobe RGB, which is supposed to display more of the RGB, Adobe RGB. sRGB mode, which is what it was in out of the box. Anti-blue mode, which kind of adds kind of an orangish tint, so it doesn't it basically removes the blue light focus of the display. And then gamer mode, which I really love the colors of the gamer mode myself. So this is the MSI Center. You can see your CPU usage, the GPU usage. You can clean up the disk, free up your memory. This one comes with 64 gigs of RAM, which I thought this was 128 gig, but it's not actually. The features on it, you've got gaming mode, which basically I believe turns off the touchpad. You can change the lights, so they change the to match the game, whatever game, like cyberpunk-ish lights when you're playing. It's pretty minor. I probably would not really focus on this. I might let it do its thing if it's got a cool setup already. One thing I really appreciate about the MSI Center is it lets you completely change your mode. So notice that I can switch it over to be entirely integrated graphics. So if you don't want the NVIDIA GPU ever turning on at all, and you just want to maximize your battery life, you can switch on the NVIDIA graphics mode, which is basically going to let you maximize that battery life and prevent the NVIDIA GPU from coming on at all. The hybrid mode does not use Advanced Optimus. It does let you switch between NVIDIA GPU and NVIDIA Optimus, but if you're gaming at 4K, it shouldn't affect your performance very much. Probably between 1 to like 5% on the high end. And that's probably why MSI did not include the mux. This does have a mux switch, so you can switch to dedicated graphics mode, but it's probably the reason why they didn't include Advanced Optimus, because 4K resolution just doesn't benefit from having Advanced Optimus as much. Now, I do wish they still included Advanced Optimus. It's kind of silly that they didn't. So, but this mux switch is the way to go unless you know that you're going to be in battery. Unless you know you're going to use the battery for more than like an hour, then you're going to want to switch to integrated graphics mode. In general, I would probably just be switching between discrete graphics mode and integrated graphics mode. But you could use the hybrid mode as well if you want to be switching between the GPUs on the fly. So it just depends. Here we are in the general settings. You can turn on the Windows key on and off, so you won't accidentally press it. You've got the switch key between the Windows button and the FN button. So if you want to use the FN button instead of the Windows button, because of the way they are positioned on the keyboard, you've got the Windows over here and the FN button positioned over here. Let me see if I can focus it. So FN's over here, Windows is over here. You can switch them so that you can press this button to get the FN function. Which is kind of a nice advanced feature. Not very many laptops have that, at least built into the software. You can turn the webcam on and off, and there is actually a physical switch right here. You can cover the webcam. At the top up here, you can see there is an actual physical button right there. You can see the physical button. You can slide it over to the left or bring it out, and that does prevent Windows Hello from working because it uses the same camera. So I just leave the privacy shutter open if you want Windows Hello to work. Now, you can switch the GPU mode here as well. You can put it on, you can activate a crosshair on the display. You see the crosshair here. in the center. Not sure if you can see that. I did find it to work really well though. And you can also adjust Windows HDR settings. You can turn it on and off. So I just turned HDR enabled right there. So now we have HDR enabled on the display. You have display power saver setting, which this sets your display down to 60 Hertz refresh rate if you want to save power when you unplug the laptop. Then you have the USB power share, which I believe allows you to charge USB devices when the laptop is asleep. So it keeps the USB A's alive so you can keep charging things. Notice that there is no display overdrive option in here. This is where it would be if it was available. You also have a dark mode, which is probably what I would recommend for people using this because it is so bright in light mode, okay? So we're going to go to our user scenarios now. Notice there is an AI-based option. You can see it's a smart AI. It's supposed to switch between these different modes for you on the fly. But in general, I'd probably be either using balanced or extreme performance or silent. I don't know, these actually work pretty well from my experience. When you go to silent mode, it really keeps the laptop silent. Like right now, we were in balanced mode and the laptop is completely silent. Nothing's spinning up. We're not doing anything on the laptop. It's not under load, so it shouldn't make any noise. If I go to extreme performance, I don't think it's going to come on loud as long as you don't set it to cooler boost mode. But it's going to be more sensitive. Like even if you're doing lighter tasks, the fans will come on pretty often, just to like always keep the temps on the GPU super low. If you go to cooler boost mode, that's going to turn on max fans. And here's the max fans coming on now. And if I were to guess, I would guess the decibels are about 60. 58 to 60 on maximum fans. You got four honking fans going with this machine. So it's to be expected. All right, we're just going to put it back into auto for right now. Now, I have not done all the steps to get Intel XTU to allow me to undervolt and overclock the CPU, but I'm going to be doing a follow-up live stream showing you all of the steps on how to undervolt and overclock the GT77 because I want to try to push this thing and see how high of a Cinebench score and Timespy scores we can get on it. So expect that live stream very soon. All right. Okay, I want to show you details before I turn this beast loose and make the thing really loud. Let's go over the display, do a display test on it, and see what kind of brightness we get with my Spyder 5 Elite. And let's go ahead and do our flex test that I was talking about doing. Flex test, going around the sides first. Very, very rigid. Okay, a little flex right here as we get to the touchpad. Like I would say it's like not perfectly rigid here. I wish it was a little bit more rigid here. This is a metal top deck, by the way, for the keyboard deck with a plastic underbelly to help prevent the top deck from getting as hot. It makes it feel pretty premium. All right, so going over the things here again, almost no flex on the corners as usual. We're getting a bit more flex around the middle and around this touchpad. I wish this was a little bit more rigid, especially for as expensive a machine as this is. We got our speaker grills on the left and right, and along the top, got a little bit of flex here, not extreme flex, but it feels pretty solid when you're actually using it. When you're pressing down this hard, you definitely get a bit of flex, which again, being such an expensive laptop, you kind of would hope it'd be a little less flexy. That said, I think it's perfectly fine. Another thing I want to point out is we do have a fingerprint sensor right here. And it has worked pretty much perfectly every time that I've used it. I've probably used it about 7-8 times now. So let's go ahead and do the display test and see how many nits brightness we get for our measurement. I'm expecting, I think we're gonna get 600, I think. Let's find out. Because the way HDR works, I don't think HDR is gonna be compatible with the Spyder 5 Elite. So JCO says, can you try a deep black wallpaper to see how black it is? Yeah, I do have a all black image. Let me just go ahead and, wow. I don't see any backlight bleed at all. Like, is the display still on? It is. That is impressive. I know that it's kind of reflective in here in this room, but I don't know if you can see, but I'm not seeing like any backlight bleed at all. Whew. Mini LEDs. Yeah, it's true. Mini LEDs is really impressive. All right, so we're going to do our color gamut and brightness and contrast test. I got to make sure the brightness is all the way up. It should be. Yeah, okay. The brightness is working, and we are at 100% brightness. We are also, I just want to clarify, we are in the gamer mode right now. Maybe we should go into like the, oh, true color is detected, HDR is on. Okay, so with HDR on, you can't, with HDR enabled, you cannot have different gamer modes or whatever. So it's in the HDR mode right now. Just look at the color of my face as it changes. It's like my whole face is lit up by the color. Daniel Smith, I did notice there's a little bit of clouding. Yeah. It depends though. Like right now I'm not seeing any clouding, but then you go over a really dark area. Sometimes you see a little bit of halo on the display. So we need to set the brightness to 0. All right, we're gonna measure. All right, now we go set to 25%. So there we go. We got our first test. This was with HDR enabled. Interesting results. So going over here, I'll scoot this over to the right a little more. So we got 94% of sRGB, 81% of Adobe RGB, and 83% of the P3 color gamut, which is a bit surprising, right? It should be more colorful than that. I'm guessing it's because in HDR mode, you lose some of that. In the brightness category, we started out at 33 nits brightness at our 0 lowest percent and 753 nits brightness at the highest end, which is higher than what the rated 600 nits SDR brightness is supposed to be. The contrast ratio, my goodness, 753,000 to 1 contrast ratio. What? That is that the highest contrast ratio I've tested with the Spyder 5? I don't know. I think it might be. Now let's go ahead and take HDR off and test it one more time. I'm curious if we're gonna get a different result with HDR disabled. Click this HDR button, you go to Windows settings. You can turn this off, you have to turn this off in Windows. So we're gonna turn off HDR and we'll set it to, I don't know. Let's do the P3 color gamut presetting, okay? So this is gonna basically color correct your screen to focus on the P3 color gamut, I believe, to show the most of that as possible. So we're gonna test again. All right, so we're gonna put this right over the center. Press OK, there we go. Can you try that black wallpaper again with the dim light in your room? Gotcha, well, I can tell you, JCO, there is basically no backlight bleed at all on this unit. And I know that I have these backlights going behind me and like the projector behind me, and that's kind of messing up the display reflection. I don't think you're going to see any backlight bleed at all, even if I turn all the lights off. So, all right, so we're ready to do the next segment. So we're going to set our brightness to 0. All right, so our color gamut is a lot better now that we turned off HDR. You can see we got 100% of the sRGB, 90% of Adobe RGB, 92% of the P3 color gamut. And like I've said, I usually say every time with the Spyder 5 Elite, this is actually underrepresenting what the display really is because of the Spyder 5 Elite's limitations. With another display checker, I think we'd be pushing over 95%, at least in the P3 color gamut, and probably Adobe RGB as well. Potentially even all the way up to like 99 or 100% coverage. Brightness-wise, wow, it's actually brighter with HDR disabled. And our contrast ratio is still insane. So at 0% brightness, we had 36 nits. At 100% brightness, we got 783 nits SDR. That's pretty freaking bright. Very insane. Contrast ratio, 783,000 and 90 to 1. Our white point was at 8,200. All right. Very impressively bright display. Very, very vibrant. I'm very impressed with the display overall in general, except for its response rate. It just doesn't feel like an ultra fast response rate display, which is really what you're looking for when you're playing focused on esports games. If you want the esports games with the GT77, go for the QHD 240 Hz. That's my advice. as someone who bought the GT77 hoping to play esports on it. And I'm definitely not recommending that for most people. Okay, let's go ahead and get our user scenario set on extreme performance. This is going to be out of the box settings, no undervolt, no overclocking, just setting it to max fans. That's it, and the highest profile. All right, everything else is stock on this thing. All right, and when I'm actually gaming on this, I'm using it. I like the gamer profile the best, so we're gonna switch to gamer. Interesting enough, when you're on extreme performance and you're on cooler boost. Okay, now it's on cooler boost. Okay, I was gonna say it should be higher. The fans should be a little louder than this. So let's go ahead and do a advanced benchmark. No long duration. Let's see what we get. Are you gonna set it to discrete GPU mode only? Yes, it is already set to discrete GPU mode only right now. So right out of the box, no tuning at all. We've done nothing. 32,377. That's insane. That is the highest out of the box score we've seen out of any laptop that I've tested so far. Out of the box has varied from like the Alienware M16 being like 14 or 15,000 to being, I think the Asus was about 29,000 in that range. For the Strix G18 and Scar 18. Obviously, those machines did a little better once we undervolted. This thing, with no tuning or anything happening out of the box, it's getting over 32,000. So 31,900 that time. Let's see what we're pulling on our CPU and GPU. Our voltage offset, you can see, is set to nothing. There's no undervolt. Well, we pushed up to 195 watts of power. All right, so checking out our voltages, wattages, 178. It was 160 seconds ago. 168, 155, 163, 160. So it's basically just sipping on that wattage at about 160 something continuously. And we're getting right around 31,000 now with HW info open and having continuously ran it. Notice our core temps are 81 degrees now after several runs, and I have not lifted up the back of the chassis yet. Let me go ahead and do that. I want to try an out-of-the-box 10-minute test and see what we get. Again, this is all stock with an undervolt, and with raising the power limits, I think we're going to be able to really push the performance on this guy. Right now, you can see we're doing 185 watts, 175 watts, 177 watts, and so we've got our full-on turbo boost going. Our core temps are 82 degrees. Our CPU package temp is 94 degrees. Our CPU package power now is 160. It was 145 for a moment there. 166, 151. And looking at our average clock speeds, during the initial higher turbo boost period of time, we were pulling 4.2 gigahertz on average, which is really impressive. The tricky part is now that we're in the long form, we got the long power limit. You can see that we're pulling 152 watts there. It was kind of 151.8. You can see that we're basically hitting the long power limit at this point. And we did hit thermal throttle just a little bit there. And that's where an undervolt is gonna help us out a lot, I believe. So our average temperature so far on the package has been 94 degrees and 84 degrees on the core temps. So that's very good. That's below thermal throttle, and that's pushing 146 watts on average during this test so far. It's interesting, our wattage is dropping down to 133 right now, when I think it should be a little bit higher. I wonder what's causing the voltage to drop. Now, our average core clocks are actually coming down a little bit there. I guess now they're right at 4 gigahertz. So this is pretty close to what the Asus laptops were pulling overall for between the Strix G18 and Scar 18. In fact, I think the Asus laptops are doing just a little bit better than this one, actually, when it comes to after we undervolted them. That undervolt definitely helping boost performance a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if this machine ends up performing a little bit below the Asus Strix G18 and Scar 18 without any additional tuning. So with the additional tuning, that's what I'm hoping we're going to be able to really push the performance more. So taking a look at our average temperatures, all right? So our average temperatures have been 84 degrees on the core and 92 on the package. Our average CPU package power has been 136 watts. So we are not pushing as high a wattage as I would like to see for this GPU, or the CPU, sorry. Especially given everything, all the promises that MSI have given us. I want to see what it's like when we raise the power limits and do the undervolting. I still think it's going to be significantly outstripping what the Asus does after we undervolt and tune the CPU. So, our out-of-the-box Cinebench R23 score for this laptop is, dun-to-dun, 29,243 for our 10-minute test. That is a little bit disappointing to me that it can't sustain at a higher power limit out of the box. I was hoping it would be over 30,000 out of the box with extreme performance, but this is with no undervolting. This is without any raising of the power limits, and that is obviously excellent performance, all things considered. So it's hard to complain too much, but it's just not quite what MSI promised us. So that's kind of the only thing I'd say about that. It's not quite there. Okay, so taking a look at our stats here. At the top, you can see our boost clock is 2200 megahertz. And I want to point out that the SCAR 18 was only doing about 1950 to 2000 megahertz. So right now, with no overclock at all to the GPU, we are already pushing 200 megahertz higher than what the RTX 4090 SCAR 18 was pushing. I also want to point out our GPU temperatures are only 55 degrees. Our wattage here is only listing at 170, and it hasn't, I don't think it boosted to like 175. And yet, despite our wattage being a little bit lower, our boost clocks are better than the SCAR 18, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I don't know. I was seeing 175 when I applied an overclock to the GPU. So it's, I don't know. We're getting better performance at slightly less wattage. It doesn't really make any sense to me. So again, pointing out our temperatures, our CPU is pushed up to 65, 68 degrees, I think was the highest I saw. But our GPU is still hanging out at 62. That's insane. That is phenomenally cool on basically an overclocked RTX 4090. Notice that we're pulling over 100 watts on the CPU, and we only went up to like 70, 80 degrees. I mean, it's a short test. It's not really a great thermal test, that being that short. But yeah, okay, so our out-of-the-box, no overclocking score, zero overclock. We got 22,541. That's phenomenal for an out-of-the-box score. You add a bit of overclock to that, you can easily push 23K, maybe even 24K. We'll have to see. Come back tomorrow or whenever I do the overclocking live stream, and we'll see how high we can push these scores, including the CPU score. I think the CPU score could definitely be a bit higher if we raise the power limits on Intel XTU or whatever power limit raising tool we're going to use. I think we're going to use Intel XTU. But I think the CPU score could definitely go over 16,000. And our GPU score, I think we'll be able to go 23.5 at least. Hopefully 24K is my goal. If we can push to 24K, that would be amazing. But without further ado, let's hop into a game. So we're in 4K. Realistically, you could run this game with no DLSS, but your performance is going to be noticeably reduced, especially if you have ray tracing enabled. Is frame gen on? Yes. We have frame gen on, DLSS on. Is it performance? Balanced. DLSS on balanced. Frame generation enabled. Everything's on ultra with ray tracing enabled. So we're going to do a run. This is at 4K. 4K. And you can see it's pretty smooth. Our 1% lows are doing really good right now. Better than normal. Usually they're dropping down to like 2 or something because it's Hogwarts. All right, so at 4K, DLSS unbalanced, frame generation on, we got 90 FPS, 90/31. This thing plays really, really well right now. Hogsmeade, though, if any place in this game can bring us to our knees, it's going to be Hogsmeade. All right, so we're going to run up here real quick. I usually have to do this twice. Whoa, our 1% lows are not terrible. This is surprising. Usually our 1% lows are much worse than this. It's actually playing relatively smoothly, assuming we're only getting 80 FPS, but still our 1% are only 33, so 31. So it's way less stuttery than I have experienced on other laptops, which is interesting. Our overall TDP is not as high either. It's less CPU bound here. I think it's because we're higher resolution, so we're more GPU bound than CPU bound. Also notice our temps are actually pretty good. Our GPU temps are 85, our CPU is 82, so that's pretty great considering SCAR 18 in this section did get very spicy up to 100 degrees. CPU bottlenecking, I don't know if it's CPU bottlenecking, it's more I think GPU bottlenecking. We are not hitting our 100% GPU utilization, but I think it might be memory bottlenecking actually, because I don't think the CPU is being taxed all the way to the max. Okay, so let me do an official run up this section, and then we'll restart the game and change the resolution. Okay, so we're running. This is very smooth. Good quality gameplay, at least. All right. Boom. So we got 8023 for our official 4K run or whatever. Let's go ahead and restart the game. Switch it to QHD so we have some comparable benchmarks. We need to set this DLSS to quality now that we're at QHD. Frame generation is enabled. Everything's on ultra. Everything's on ultra. And ray tracing's on. Let's go ahead and we'll do it. We'll run up there. If our 1% lows are actually still good, then I mean, I usually do a run up, but maybe we don't need to anymore. This is not stuttering. What the heck? This is one of the only laptops I've ever tested that has almost no stuttering in this game. Like our really bad 1% low stuttering is just it's not happening right now. I love it. Okay, so 103.37 with ray tracing enabled. Here we go. We're running through Central Hall, out to Transfiguration Courtyard, and into Defense Against the Dark Arts Tower. 119.38. Now let's go ahead and see what we get when we disable ray tracing. Okay, so we have ray tracing disabled now. Everything's on ultra. I'm tempted to throw textures on low, but we'll not do that for now. DLSS on quality, QHD, frame generation enabled. Notice our temps are also really good still, all right? Our wattage, wow, our boost clock is 2400 megahertz. Our wattage is pretty low though. I'm wondering if it's related to our lower speed memory. I don't know. Interesting. Only 125. Isn't this less than what the Strix G18 got? Well, look at our FPS average now. It's 180. How do we only average 122 through there? That's very odd. And it makes me want to retest this for sure. We should be getting higher FPS than that. I would think should be getting higher FPS than that. Our wattage is very low on the GPU and our utilization is low. So I think we're getting CPU bottlenecked perhaps from our memory speed, maybe? That's the only thing I can think of. Or maybe we need to raise the TDP power limit on the CPU. That could also maybe be related. I don't know. But this is underperforming compared to what I was expecting. And the Asus laptops are just putting up better numbers in this test. So pretty dang interesting. 4K, DLSS on quality. All right, and frame gen on, no ray tracing. Let's see what we get. Well, now we're seeing 97% GPU utilization because we went up to 4K, I guess. Pretty interesting. I don't think we're being a CPU bottlenecked anymore. Yeah, very interesting. This would definitely be a great way to play the game. 110.39. Isn't that very similar to what we got the first time? I'd have to go back and check, but we're definitely seeing the upper limits of the GPU being utilized right now. And I love the fact that our 1% lows are so much better. This is the best gaming experience I've had on the game, even though the FPS is actually a little lower, which it's so counterintuitive to say that, but I mean, it's smoother. It feels smoother. And like I said, it might just be Hogwarts had a optimization update. It's hard to say. I need to go back and test some other laptops today. Maybe the optimization update would help the other laptops too. If it doesn't help the other laptops, then we know it's something related to the GT77 that's reducing or improving the 1% lows. So right now we're going to do some gameplay at DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled with no ray tracing, everything else on ultra. Let's load up to our latest save. So, and I think we can't really say necessarily that the SCAR 18 is better yet, because, for example, the temperatures are better here and our 1% lows are better. So there's advantages to the GT77, even if the average FPS is higher. And we don't know exactly the reasons why yet. Well, with frame gen enabled, now I'll turn it off after we'll go into another shop with no frame gen. So I've restarted the benchmark right here. Our temperatures are excellent. How many hours am I in now? I'm about 18 hours into Hogwarts. My gear score is like 250 and 260 defense and offense. I'm hitting pretty hard. I'm playing in hard mode and I'm just killing stuff really good. Okay, so we're just going to move past this. And we're going to buy our stuff.
Nothing like finding if you're interested. Feel free to take
all right, and let's go ahead and go to our settings. We'll turn frame gen off because I know some of you guys want to see that as well. So no frame generation, DLSS on quality, everything on ultra, no ray tracing. All right, so I'm going to restart the average FPS. Frame gen at 4K didn't give us as big of a boost. Well, it's interesting. We're jumping around between 60 and 80 FPS. So we need to go to Pippin's Potions, which should be over here. This is still very smooth, very playable. All right, here's Pippin's Potions.
Welcome to J. Pippin's Potions.
Pardon me, sir.
Oh, thank goodness. When I heard the bell, I thought you were Miss Lawang. Not that she deigns to come here. Though, I don't believe I've seen your face here before, either.
It's my first time in Hogsmeade, actually.
Still some great performance, considering no frame gen is on.
Parry Pippin
Very
at your
smooth.
service. And this is J. Pippin's Potions. Potions for all ailments. You'll already done the
Marksman, when are you going to show us undervolting? Probably tomorrow. Whenever I do the next live stream with the GT77, we'll do some undervolting and benchmarking.
You're the student. I sent you.
Okay, I'm going to skip forward and we'll go to the next segment.
What can I do for you today? Oh, wow.
Swing.
Feel free to take a look at the rest of my inventory.
Is this game any good? I've been really enjoying this game. I think it's a really good game. The details and the side quests and the storytelling is really, really phenomenal. The combat system is fun. This is a phenomenal gaming experience. The display is so bright. The speakers are good. The one thing I'll say is you wouldn't want to play on max fans if you're unless you're using headphones. You want to play on like balanced or silent mode. So let me try showing you guys that. Let's try balanced mode. So we were averaging 88 FPS before. I'm going to restart it now. We're going to have lower boost clocks and the fan noise is going to come down a bit. So now we're in balanced fan mode, which is just going to be a lot better, which is going to be a better overall experience for someone who is, someone who wants to have a more balanced audio experience. Like right now, the fans aren't so loud that I can't enjoy the sound of the speakers of the game. Like if you're hearing a fan, it's actually, I have a side fan that's actually making more noise than the GT77 now. We'll get some combat going here. I'll try my best not to die. So this game is a lot like Elden Ring combat in the sense that you need to use attacks with continuous dodging. Do I have any damage spells? I don't have any damage spells yet. Just got auto attack. Oh my god, Natty just got demolished. Oh my gosh, Natty, you gotta dodge. You need to take the dodge tutorial.
I was trying to beat him at his own game.
Whee! Oh my gosh. One whack does like a quarter of your health. All right, so let's summarize what we've discovered about the GT77. The GT77, out of the box, we had a better score than the SCAR 18 in Cinebench R23. After we undervolt and overclock this guy, I'm expecting over 30K, probably I've seen as high as 37,000 with the GT77. I don't think we're probably going to get that high. I'm hoping that we get at least to 33, 34,000 during the undervolt and overclock stream session, at least for a single run. A 10-minute run, I don't know what we'll get. We'll have to see. For the GP performance, this is the stock out of the box performance with the GT77. It's very impressive. We're getting like 200 megahertz higher boost clock. For some reason, our FPS in Hogwarts Legacy is actually lower than the SCAR 18. I think it's either because of the memory or because the CPU power limit is lower. We're pulling like over 100 watts on the SCAR 18 and up to 120 watts on the SCAR 18. And that may be pushing our FPS lower because we're only seeing like 80, 90 watts in Hogwarts Legacy with the GT77. So raising the power limits with Intel XU, again, may boost our performance in games like Hogwarts Legacy. So it's hard to say what the reason that we're getting lower performance. But the big thing is with the GT77, our 1% lows were excellent. We weren't experiencing any stuttering pretty much. The game was smooth at QHD and Full HD. I don't really understand the reason. Maybe Hogwarts was better optimized with their recent updates. It's hard to say. New games like this do get optimization updates more frequently than older existing games. So I'll need to do some more tests. We'll be doing more tests with other laptops very soon. I will be doing an overclocking live stream with this laptop very soon. Probably today or tomorrow or tomorrow or the next day will probably be the days I'll be doing the overclocking live stream. So be sure to subscribe and come back for that. So speaker test, let's go. So right now it's a flat custom EQ with music as the profile preset. We'll turn it off. I'll try turning it off and on for you. Can you hear the difference? On, off, on. The sound quality, the quality of the speakers goes up and changes dramatically when you change the different profiles here. So this is something I would definitely recommend playing with if you end up getting this laptop to optimize the speaker system. Okay, so my summary of the speakers are they have very noticeable strong bass. They have pretty clear mids and highs, but I think the mids and highs could be a little bit clearer. The overall volume is very loud. I think the speakers are probably like an 8.75 or maybe a 9 out of 10. Not quite as good as the Blade 16 speakers. I'm sure probably not quite as good as the Blade 18 speakers, but they're up there and they do make for very good sound. As long as you don't have fans on max fans, you can get a good gaming experience with just raw audio coming from the laptop, because you have upward firing speakers on the left and right of the keyboard, as well as downward firing on the left and right. So the overall volume is quite loud. It's really good. So this keyboard layout, I love the spacing of the general keyboard. It feels extremely excellent to type on. Have a listen to the typing sound. I also really love this feature. Check this out. So on the keyboard arrow keys, you can enable and disable a crosshair. The crosshair button is just a hotkey right here. You see that right here? You just press FN and then the down arrow, and then you get a crosshair to pop up on the screen. So it's very easy to have your crosshair when you want it or you don't want it, that can help give you a bit of an advantage in certain types of games. You can also pause and play music with this pause and play left arrow button. So you have a little bit of media control built in, and it's very easy to press these with the FN button being right next to the arrow keys. So you can just use, just like that, and you got it activated, whatever. So it's really good. The touchpad, I would also say, is very nice. It's got a nice click to it. And it's very tactile. I like the click a little better than the blade click, but it's just not quite as big of a surface area, and that's okay. I think this is an excellent touchpad overall. I really like the keyboard and setup here. The only thing is the arrow keys are a little bit smaller than I would like. They're not quite full size, and so is the number pad. These keys are a little close together, which makes a little bit of getting used to for the keyboard. But overall, the keyboard is phenomenal. It's got great feel. The speakers are good. The display is phenomenal, just not great for esports. The display is just a perfect display for casual gaming. So you want something that's colorful, that's vibrant, that's got a decent response rate, and is very smooth to look at. This is fantastic. And it's just super freaking bright. Okay, that's it for the live stream, guys. Thanks so much for everyone that became a member of the channel. And if you do become a member after the stream is done, be sure to email me so I can add you to the list in the right order. Becoming a member gives you access to potentially buying review units that the review laptops that I buy and then I end up reselling. So you'll get top priority for buying those laptops. Okay, peace out, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.